Hello and welcome to the Happy Dads Club, the podcast designed with dads in mind. I'm your host Callum Francis, a father of one, and I'm really glad that you've joined me for today's discussion. I know as much as the next dad just how challenging it can be at times to be a dad, which is why with this podcast we leave no dad behind, regardless of faith, religion, race or background. This is a safe space where us dads have permission to admit we are struggling at times and often feel like we don't have all the answers. So whether you're on the way to work, at the gym, out for a walk, or even at your lowest point, I want to say a huge well done for making the decision to hit play on this podcast today. And hopefully in doing so, we can help each other get back to a place of happiness and being the best dads that we know we can be. So let's dive straight into this session. So on today's episode, we're going to discuss what it means to live on purpose or live intentionally. Now, it's very important that we point out that by this, we're not saying find your purpose. This episode isn't where we're going to be looking at, the meaning of our lives and what we feel that we were born to do or born to achieve. This is simply waking up every day with intention, with a sense of purpose, rather than just waking up and doing what most of us do in life. Just wake up and accept whatever the day brings. And like I say, we drift through the day. Every single day is the same. We wake up, most of us will probably go to a job that we don't enjoy. It doesn't give us a sense of fulfillment. It doesn't excite us. And also it doesn't use us to our fullest ability, to our best abilities. And I think that's a real shame with a lot of people, is we know that we can be more than what we already are, and this is exemplified in our careers and the jobs that we have. We often sit at home, sit in the office or sit at home, knowing that we can do more or be more, or we work for big corporations, or we work for even small businesses. There'll be people there that go in there day in, day out, and finishing their day knowing that they're able to do more and give more. And what I want to look at today is how do we embed that into our daily routines, so that when we do start the day, we're starting it with a real purpose, so that we're not drifting through the day and we're not living a life where every day is just a repeat of the previous 24 hours, and we already know that the tomorrow is going to be a repeat of today's 24 hours. That's what we're trying to avoid in this discussion. So one of the first things I want to ask the listeners today, and I really want you to think about this, because I believe that for the majority of my life I was definitely in the first category, or the first box. So if you're at the gym, or if you're driving or working, or you're on a walk, or wherever you're listening, just take a moment to think about the question that I'm about to ask you. And it's a simple question, and try not to think too much about it, because then I think you talk yourself into being in one of the two boxes. It's just your gut instinct, and it is, which box do you sit in? Do you wake up and let things happen, or allow things to happen, or do you wake up and make things happen? And I just want you to go with your gut instinct and go with what that's telling you, because then identifying which box you sit in will help you in ensuring that moving forward you can use your days more effectively to be sure that you're now living your days purposefully and with intent. Now, as I've said, I admit to living in the first box for the majority of my life. Some days I still live in that box, and I think that's just sort of human nature. I don't think it's something that we need to really give ourselves a hard time over. I just think some days, it's easier to wake up and just almost open our arms and invite whatever the world's going to throw at us on that day. And when we do that, we need to be mindful that if we're letting things happen to us, we are living from a reactive standpoint. So anything that comes our way, we are basically reacting. We are firefighting, if you like. And yes, although things day to day will be different, we are constantly in a position of just putting out fires. And the next day something will happen and we'll react. The day after that something will happen and we'll react. And that's simply because we're standing back and inviting inevitable problems onto ourselves. What I want to hopefully do with this short discussion today is to, first of all, bring an awareness as to which box you are in at the minute. And I think that's one thing that we've just looked at, and hopefully you've been able to identify which box you sit in. If not, then don't be afraid to get some feedback off some people close to you. It could be your partner, it could be a relative, a friend, it could be a child. You know, don't be afraid to ask the question and just get their input. And again, if they do say that you are somebody that seems to let things happen, let's not see that as a bad thing. The first thing and the most important thing that we need to do is just identify which of those boxes we fit in. If you are somebody that goes into the second box and you feel that you're somebody that wakes up and make things happen, then that's great. There is still room for improvement in that box. You know, it's okay feeling like you're waking up every day and you're making things happen, but how do we know that we're making the right things happen? I use the idea of a ship in a water with no destination quite frequently, because I think it's something that really resonates with me, and it's a real clear picture in my mind that I can use often to exemplify what I'm trying to say. So making things happen is great, but if you're a ship and you've got, say, a destination, well, that ship it's still got the ability to set sail, and it's still got the ability to go on a certain route. But if those routes aren't going to take it to the right destination, you could actually be not only making the wrong things happen, but also wasting a lot of vital energy that you're gonna need when you are on the right path. So it's very important that we recognise which box we fit in. Are we somebody that wakes up and we let things happen, which, again, just the identification of that in itself is a powerful thing. It gives us something to go at, something to work with. Or are we somebody that makes things happen? And if you are somebody that makes things happen, just again take a step back and ask yourself, am I making the right things happen? That's something that you've really got to think about in that box. So how do we turn ourselves into somebody that lets things happen to somebody that makes things happen? And I think the simplest, most effective way of doing that, you could almost say it acts as a bit of a short circuit or a shortcut from getting from one box to the next, or the most efficient way. And it's as simple as having a plan. Having a plan for what you want tomorrow to look like, or next week to look like, or a month. It's setting goals. And these, I'm not talking about, building Rome. We are talking baby steps, where either at the beginning of the week, or you could do it on a day-to-day basis. Me personally, I have to hold my hands up and say I'm not the best at setting goals. There's definitely more work for myself to do in this area. But if you're willing to give it a go, then so am I. I would suggest you have a go at just noting down a few things that you would like to achieve over the next sort of 7 days. I'm saying 7 days because I think sometimes if we go straight for the daily goals, it's very easy for us to just wake up the next day and think, oh, you know what, I'll do it the next day, or I'll do it the next day. And before you know, a week or a month's gone by and we've just been putting it off and putting it off. Whereas I think with 7 days, yes, you can still wake up tomorrow and say, oh, you know what, I've got too much to do today, I'll do it tomorrow. we've still got that window of opportunity, and we've still got that sort of grace period to allow ourselves that little bit of breathing space. So I'm going to say 7 days, and we can sit tonight, or whether you want to do it tomorrow night, and just have a think about maybe 2 or 3 things that these could be things that you've needed to get done for a while, but you've always put them off. It could be something in terms of getting in touch with somebody, or making that phone call, sending that email. It doesn't have to be sort of groundbreaking. These can be really seemingly insignificant things, but actually when you've done them, they're quite significant. So have a think about some things that you've been putting it off, and you've been making excuses as to why you've not been able to get that thing done, and set yourself a target of maybe 7 days to get those things done, and work backwards. So start with the end in mind and work backwards. Backtrack. What will it take? Baby steps. You don't want to try and eat the whole elephant. We do it in small, manageable chunks. And over the 7 days, if you've then managed to achieve what you set out to achieve, then you can look back at those 7 days and say, you know what? Maybe not 100%, but I did just start to turn a corner in terms of living on purpose. I did have 2 or 3 goals in mind that I set myself to achieve over the next 7 days, and I've gone about it and I've achieved them. And that sense of living on purpose, I believe, will just give you the energy and the momentum, if you like, to continue doing that. Once you see what you can achieve, and you can feel the feeling of fulfillment that's going to give, I think that's all some of us need. We just need that little boost or that little kick to get started on living on purpose. And that's where this element of execution comes in. We can't just sit and have a plan and sit and have a goal. A goal without a plan, to me, is just a wish or a dream. We need to have action steps to get us to where we need to be. And I think having those broken down small steps in front of us are the most effective and efficient way of ensuring that we're living on purpose. And also, I've touched on it a bit, but it's important that we review the plan. We go back and we review the plan, and plans change. Things that would be important in your life at one time in your life might not be important the month after or the week after. So don't be afraid to review the plan and change a few things out. If you thought something was important one week but it isn't the next, because you've actually sat and thought more about it, don't be afraid to take that out of the plan. It could be you're saying to yourself, oh, well, next week I want to go to the gym 5 times. Okay, but let's say that, and again, this is just an example, picking it out of the air. Let's say that your son or your daughter has a show at school or a play, and they'd love for you to be there. This is where you've got to get your priorities, because what would mean more, that fifth session at the gym, or your son or your daughter looking out into the audience and seeing their dad's face? Because I would place a lot of money on it being the latter. I believe that it would mean absolutely everything to your child to look out and see their dad watching them give the performance of their life. So again, have the plan, go into execution, review the plan, but don't be afraid to change the plan if need be. And also, if you get to say, it might not be 7 days. I'm just using 7 days as a good starting point. You might decide after listening to this, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this on an almost 24-hour basis. Each evening before I go to bed, I'm going to spend 10 minutes just thinking about how have I done today? What have I achieved? What do I want to achieve for tomorrow? But what I do want to emphasize is this: we are human. We are dads, and we are human. And we won't always go into full-on execution mode where we can guarantee that all of our goals and all of our aims for the next day, week or month will be achieved. Things will happen. Situations will rear their heads, things will get in the way. The main thing is we do not beat ourselves up, and we do not stop just because of that. We can park goals and objectives, we can park them, but what we must always do is return to them and pick them up and carry them on, because we don't want to give up. And it's very easy to beat ourselves up, and I think sometimes we actually beat ourselves up even more when we're in the letting things happen, because if we're sitting and just drifting through the day and we start to really get a sense of, oh my god, I'm just this useless dad, this useless man that's just doing nothing with his life, I'm just sitting here just plodding along, every day's the same. That's us beating ourselves up. But it's pointless doing that if you're then not going to go into action. So when you're in the make things happen box, we've got to understand and give ourselves a lot of credit that we had the courage to wake up and move into this new phase of our lives where we're not going to allow mediocrity anymore. We're going to actually stand up and make every day count so that we are the best dads that we can be, and we're in a much happier place. Now, if we're making tangible efforts to get into that box and stay in that box, that is a huge achievement. That is no small feat to get into that position in our lives, and well done for doing that. But what we mustn't do is drag ourselves down or beat ourselves up when we haven't quite achieved what we thought we would. Like I've said, review the plan. Have I met this goal? Did I achieve everything I wanted to achieve in executing this goal? Did it give me the outcome that I thought it would? Maybe it didn't. But hey, we carry on. We don't give up. We don't quit. We keep going. Because, like I've said, when we're in this make things happen box, that's a position of power. That's where we've stepped into our power, and that's where we are giving ourselves the best opportunity to be the best dads that we can be. And our partners, our kids, our relatives, they will thank us for being in this box, because who wants to be around someone that's just goes with the flow, doesn't really have any energy or motivation? Yeah, this has happened to me today, and yeah, tomorrow's probably going to be rubbish as well. How unattractive is that? Like, seriously, if you were going to work and you was around someone like that, and believe you me, there is people out there that are like that. We call them mood hoovers, because they literally suck the mood out of every space they're in. But we need to be conscious of ourselves being mood hoovers. We don't want to do that. We want to wake up with drive. We want to wake up with energy. And this is where I'm saying that life exists for each and every one of you guys out there. If we can just do the basic steps to take us from a position of letting things happen to making things happen, that's the path that we want to go on. That's the bridge that we want to cross. The island of letting things happen, where the weather's terrible, there's no growth, the plants just die. We want to get away from that and move over to the bridge where the sun is shining day in, day out. Things are prospering, things are healthy, there's growth, there's development, there's happiness, there's joy, there's a vision for the future and a real hope of a better tomorrow. And that is where making things happen exists. That's where we need to be. And I believe that there's a place in that island for every single one of you, regardless of what you're going through at the minute, regardless of external situations, your circumstances, your employment status, your financial situation, your marital status, your living standards. Regardless of all of that, right now, today, after listening to this podcast, you can become somebody that makes things happen. And you can start to build the life of your dreams, not just for you, but for those around you, for your children, for your partner. We can really be the change makers of our generation. Everybody that's listening to this, Like I've said, we leave no dad behind on this podcast, and I strongly believe that everybody has their rightful place to live a lifestyle where they make things happen. So go away, think about how you want your tomorrow to look, your next week to look, or your next year. Once we get good at setting goals, it becomes a habit. It becomes I guess you could say like a drug, because it becomes a habit where it makes us feel different, and we start to need that. We start to want to do that. We start to want to sit down on a Sunday evening after maybe we've put the kids to bed. You know, you've had a nice meal, and now's your time to sit down and just spend 30 minutes with yourself, reviewing those goals and setting forward the steps that you want to achieve for the following week or the following month. And that way we can stay in this mindset of making things happen and living on purpose, living with drive, waking up every day knowing that we are in a position of power. We dictate the next 24 hours. We decide where we want to focus our efforts and our attention. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you've gotten something out of this podcast. It's been a great discussion today, and I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it, guys. Let's get out, make that plan, and let's start to execute. I've been Callum Francis. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day. For all inquiries or general contact, or if you'd like to sponsor the Happy Dads Club podcast, please email us at thehappydadsclub@outlook.com. Thank you.